Today we're going to bring you a message called "A God-Designed Marriage is a Thriving Marriage." In fact, this month is our family month. And next week, in fact, Brother Chichon will bring to us a topic that is related to family. So what is a God-designed marriage? I believe that a God-designed marriage will be a thriving and a successful marriage. Now, marriage is the oldest institution that God ordained. In fact, right at the early pages of the Genesis, you realize that the first act that God did, beside creating the man and the woman, God actually married them. Right? God did not just create the man and the woman and then leave them to live wild life. God married them, and so marriage is an institution ordained by God, but yet marriage is also an institution threatened by the devil, because the devil wanted to destroy marriage. You see, marriage is the basic relationship among human beings. And if you take away marriage, you take away this institution, actually there's not much hope for mankind. What's the purpose of having a lot of people when they are not even related? They don't have a basic family unit. See, we are not a swarm of ants, or a swarm of bees. No. God has created us as actually family units too. And the devil is also very cunning. The devil wants to destroy family. God wants to make sure that families are successful. Now, obviously, we know that in the Garden of Eden, when God created Adam, then God created all the other creatures before Adam. And then when Adam looked around, Adam's supposed to name names. And then he saw the elephant, the male elephant, and then he saw the female elephant. Then he saw them, they went dating. Then he saw the lion, he saw the lioness, they also went dating. Although they went different places. And so Adam looked around, and he was alone. And he could not find a companion suitable, the Bible says, suitable for him. And so God created one for him. So the Bible says that God made man out of dust. That's why today you look at us, all the men, look at us. You see our face all very rough one. God made of dust. Then God said he caused Adam to fall asleep. And then from his side took out a bone, a rib, and then created the woman. Now the woman is created not using a toe bone, so that man can trample upon her, neither the skull bone, so that the woman will rule over the man, but from the rib, from the side, so that she can be loved by man. I think that's wonderful. Of the body anatomy, God very intentionally chose the rib. In fact, in the Chinese Hanzi, it's very interesting. The word, and when Adam saw Eve, after he woke up, normally after operation you wake up, right? That was the first operation, by the way. And then when Adam woke up, he saw this beautiful thing. So his first description is what? Bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. And in the English, even in Hebrew, you cannot really see the beauty. But when you look at the Chinese character, it's very interesting. The Chinese character, flesh, flesh. Now, bone of my bone was taken from his bone. Now, flesh, how did God take up, so-called this women? So in the Chinese character, actually, there is the Chinese word flesh. There's look like two men, and then with a body and a case. So actually, it's not two men, because the Chinese character look like it's two men, but actually, it's one word is in, in. Then the other one is man. So God put his hand in, and then take out the small man out. So in English, in Chinese, it's called 小人. God took out the man out. And that is the word flesh. How wonderful? So there is a hand that went in and take out the woman out. So that's why Adam said, bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. Now obviously the rest is history. But today, ever since Adam and Eve fell, you see the devil started to attack the institution of marriage. In fact, we continue to turn to the pages of Genesis, you realize that there were so many things that happened. that wanted to break up marriages. First, we have polygamy, right? One man with more than one woman. So that is a threat to family. Then you have evil sexual thoughts and words. All these are found in Genesis. And then you have adultery. Then you have homosexuality. And then you have fornication, incest, prostitution, seduction. All this we can read it in Genesis. Now see, the devil started to attack families, attack marriage. Why? You see, because if the devil is successful in attacking family, then actually God's plan, he would have defeated God's plan. In fact, the devil extended this thought even to the church. Today, the devil also wants the church not to have descendants. If we are all happy worshiping, and then we ourselves are happy worshiping, as long as we are happy, we see one another, you wish me well, I wish you well, and then 10 years later, it's still you well and I well, and some who are older are not well, they went home. And then very soon, no new one comes, and then everyone went home, and one day, no more Petra. We become Petros again. Small pebble. So that is the devil's strategy. The devil's strategy is always to deprive us of descendants. So family. Now coming back to family, how can we, therefore, have a thriving, successful family? How can we then have a good marriage? Now in Genesis chapter 2, verses 21 to 24, it records thus. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Now obviously God created, after God has created Eve, God brought Eve to Adam, and actually God married them. God in fact was the first solemnizer. The original solemnizer. God was the one who solemnized their wedding, and then God said this. God gave them some instructions. So these instructions are very precious, that today we want to spend some time to look in detail. Now, first of all, what are the 4 reasons for marriage? Now, people don't marry just because, I love you, you love me, and then after that, what? Sometimes the love also did not last too long, right? So what is the real purpose of marriage? Now, the 4 reasons for marriage are: 1 is to propagate, to have children. So to have children is a normal and proper thing to do. In fact, to have in a marriage. I remember when I was conducting premarital counseling for those couple intending to get married. And the one question I will always ask them is, how many children do you plan to have? Few will say, I want 10. Few will say, I want 6. They will have 1 or 2 or 3, So we all know, right? Because in Singapore, you cannot afford to have 3. You will go bankrupt. So we actually limit. And now and then I'll have a couple who say, we do not want children. Now when they say they do not want children, now I do not want to presume, and I don't want to condemn, or neither I want to, just think that something is not right. So I would ask, is it because of what? A medical condition? See, there are people who actually they want children, but they could not have children. Let's face it. Like there is a medical reason. But it's different from people who are both healthy, and then they purposely, intentionally avoid having children. They are 2 different things. They just want to enjoy each other companionship. They just want to have, a wife and a husband, but they don't want children. They think children will perhaps deter their career development, etc., etc. So they don't want children. And when I come across such couple, I will tell them, I say, but actually that's no good. I really want to tell you that if you seriously don't have children, maybe you should find another pastor to marry you. Because what happens if I marry you? And we all know, there's a saying, man proposes, God disposes. Maybe we can have all the what you call safety measure to prevent a pregnancy. Right? Unless you do some procedure that is permanent. All other methods that could be so-called an what? Accident. They call it accident. Actually, it's not accident, it's natural. So what happens if a baby comes about? And because your starting point is, I don't want to have children. We don't have children. So do we go for abortion then? So you see, there are other issues involved. That's why this question about children is very important, because marriage is about propagating. To have children is pleasing to the Lord. So propagation. Second, to eliminate solitude. See, when God placed Adam in the Garden of Eden, Adam was with the new, so-called all the new created creatures, and he saw them all happy. He was like in the Singapore Zoo, but it's a more glorified one, more animals. And then, but yet he was lonely. Why? He could not find companionship with animals, not of the same kind. Therefore, God so-called ministered to his solitude by what? Creating a companion, a helpmeet. Now, in the Bible, it's called a helpmeet, not M-E-A-T, M-E-E-T. Help to meet the needs. Help meet. And actually, the word help meet in the original, in the Hebrew, is actually means an echo. An echo. The wife is supposed to be the echo of the husband. Like you stand in front of a cave or a wall, then you say, 1! Then what happens when there's an echo? 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, sometimes like that. When the husband say 1, the wife say 2, 3, 4, 5. No. God's intention is an echo. Help me. Means when the husband say 1, the wife say 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. That's what I mean. Help me. Echo. With one voice. See, in a family, when you have more than one voice, what happens? You're in trouble. Children will play politics with you. We all know it. So the wife is to provide that companionship to minimize solitude. And what Paul advised the Christian then, right? He said that for some of these young men, he said some of them, it's better for them to get married than that they burn with desire, right? So Paul advised that. Why? Because to eliminate solitude. And also to prevent immorality. And because God has created us to have really biological needs. And I think there's no shame, and here there's no under 18, right? So we have needs, and this is a fact. You can't hide it. You cannot pretend it is not there. And in fact, it is the need that will help the propagation. Imagine there's no need. I think it's harder to propagate. Don't you think so? If there are no needs, then it's harder to propagate. Fourthly, is to provide enjoyment. So husband and wife is to enjoy each other. They are not there to get married and then quarrel all the time. Although quarrel is part of marriage. If someone says we never quarrel, that's not a real marriage. They are still courting. But in a marriage, we will enjoy one another. Now, obviously, there are different degree and different definition to different people. That may be subjective. What I enjoy, you may not enjoy. But they are really to enjoy one another, and enjoyment. And I hope that when we look at our own marriage, it is an enjoyment, not a torture. Some people, maybe privately, they entertain this thought, They look at the spouse, this is a torture. I wait for an opportunity to get out. Wait for the stock to go up, I buy out. I sell out. Is it? No, it's for enjoyment. So, secondly, now we know that in the Garden of Eden, man fell. Adam and Eve fell. And so now man has sinned. And when man has sinned, man cannot possibly be perfect. So can two imperfect people build a blissful and good marriage? Actually, theoretically, based on this statement, it is not possible. Two imperfect persons can never ever build a perfect marriage. If they think they can, they are dreaming. How can two imperfect persons build a perfect marriage? It's not mathematics. Minus, minus, add together, plus. In a marriage, minus, minus, add together, more minuses. So does it mean that therefore there is no hope, and therefore it's better not to get married? Today, perhaps there are some brothers and sisters, they look at marriage with a very gleam and bleak hope, and they would want to avoid marriage. But actually, it is really God's desire that marriage is a normal thing, is a good thing. Now, Socrates said this about marriage. He said, by all means, marry. If you get a good wife, you will become very happy. If you get a bad one, you will become a philosopher. You still have to live with it. Yeah. Now, so two imperfect persons can never make a perfect marriage. It's not possible. However, don't be so discouraged and Pastor, you say this, then we should not get married at all. No, there is hope. If the married couple, if you and I who are married, and we get Christ into our marriage, then, like what Ecclesiastes says, right? A cord of three strands is not easily broken. When Christ is in our marriage, then our marriage will become successful. Because of the intrusion, the intervention of Christ. Having said that, it seems that only Christian, by now, my position seems to be only Christian can have successful marriage. Then you say, no, Pastor, we do see some marriages, they are not Christians, but they seem to be good marriages. Yeah, I will not say there are no such marriages, but they are not the norm. They are the abnormal ones. Because generally, it cannot be like that. Right? But we do see good marriages. They are very fine people. Right? They are very loving. But we as Christians, actually, we do have advantage. In fact, as Christians, we are like an aeroplane flying with two wings. But sometimes we can choose to fly with one wing. Still can fly, In fact, in Israel, once upon a time, there was a pilot. His one wing was shot down. He didn't even know. Then later he landed. Then he realized one of the wing was shot. He left with one wing only. But he landed. It was a miracle. Yeah, one wing can possibly still land. But I think it's safer to have two wings. And God has given us Christians this advantage. So I think it's good that we take good advantage of this. Now, so the conclusion is, two imperfect people, if we include Christ, then we can have a blissful, successful marriage. Right? Now you can turn to your spouse and say, possible idea. Now we look at the God-designed marriage. What is a God-designed marriage? Just now we read Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. It says, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Now, this is a God-designed marriage. And this verse is the foundation. In fact, everything starts with foundation. If we have the foundation right, then everything will be right. If the foundation is wrong, then everything is not right. So this is the foundation. So God gave 3 commands, 3 instructions for us how to have actually a thriving, successful marriage. Right? Rule number 1, or the first commandment, is living. What do we mean by living? Now, when in Singapore now, many couples, after they married, they live. Naturally, they live because HDB flat is very affordable, right? In fact, nowadays, the girls are all very smart. They ask you, got flat or not? Got BTO flat or not? No? Is it in Tanjong Bakar or Queenstown? Woodland one, I don't want. They want flats, right? Why? Because many couples are now independent. They live by themselves, which is good. Okay. So living means that we live our parents and we take responsibility and we become independent. Now, when a couple got married and they do not so-called live in the proper sense of this word, then there is really no true marriage. You see, in the traditional, in the good old days, in the traditional society, especially in China, I'm sure in other society, in India or what else, you find that they have extended family. They have 1 generation, 2 generation, 3, 4, 5 generations stay together. And then you have the matriarch or the patriarch, right? And now you know that under this structure, it is very stressful if you are the daughter-in-law or you could be the son-in-law. There are a lot of pressure because you do not have independence. You cannot do the things you want, you know. So there are all house rule there, and you follow. And as a result, there are a lot of pressure. So the Bible wanted this couple, when they get married, first is to leave their parent. But don't get excited first. I will tell you, leaving does not mean that we dishonor our parents. Leaving does not mean that we forget about them. Leaving does not mean that now we shirk our responsibility and we do not supply, we do not take care of them. No, not at all. And leaving begins at the wedding. That means on that moment when this couple say, I take thee, give the vow, and then the pastor, the solemnizer, that moment they leave. They leave. It's important that they leave. And they had to transfer their loyalty from their parents in time past to their spouse. And living must not ignore the command to honor our parents. And the Bible never teaches us to, just because we live, forgive, and no. We just forget. Because we don't see each other, we forget. No, the Bible never teaches us that. So we may leave them so-called physically, but even for a time being. And sometimes due to certain good reason, it may not be possible to live. Well, I remember I have a church mate. One day he got married. His wife was the adopted daughter of a Samsui woman, Samsui woman. They are not married, they are adopted. And she was alone. So what can you do? You cannot just leave this old lady all by herself. If they are not strong and they cannot manage. So literally, this church mate of mine, he took the mother-in-law, so-called mother-in-law, and then they stay together. It's possible, right? So this living is not. We have to look at the situation. But living is to transfer our loyalty from parents to spouse, and we don't leave them in terms of love. We continue to love them. We continue to honor them. While we leave them so-called physically, we don't leave them emotionally. And even this emotion, there is a limit. And I will explain further later. And we don't leave them in terms of communication. And sometimes good reason, I don't know when is the last time you call your parents. I don't know. Right? But you're feeling excited, then better call. We need to communicate with our parents. Even when you leave, we have to communicate. We leave them in terms of authority and in terms of priority. That means when we say we leave them in terms of authority. You see, when a couple got married, they are establishing a new entity. It's a new entity. Previously, they were from another entity, right? Each 2 entities. And then now, they form a new entity. These the former 2 entities now actually cannot control the new entity. They must not interfere in the new entities. A lot of time, there are in-laws issues, in-laws relationship. You know why? Because they interfere. Because the in-laws interfere into the new unit. And then you will have a lot of problems. So we leave them in terms of authority. So we leave them in terms of authority. We also leave them in terms of priority. You see, last time before you're married, our parents, they are the one who raised us up. They are the one who take care of us. And therefore, they occupy important place in our life. Right? There's a priority, then they are high up. But once we get married, then we transfer our loyalty, our priority to the spouse. If we do not transfer our loyalty to our spouse, I tell you, this marriage will have problem. Right? If the mother is still more important than the wife, you want to be that wife. If the mother is still important, then your husband, every time you have to choose between the wife and the mother, you choose mother. Then you wonder why you married me, So you see, priority is very important. Priority means now the wife, the spouse become the number one in your life. Now, you heard this story, I think I told you before. When I was young, my mother always asked me. I used to, do this for my mom. Last time they didn't have old sim chair, So I'm the old sim. Then my mother, while you're talking, go up and ask, son, next time, when you get married, and then your wife, myself, and you, we all out in the sea with a small boat. Then our boat sink, and then another boat came along and only can save 2 persons. Son, who would you save? So when I was a very young boy, before maybe like 13, 14 years old, I said, Mom, definitely you lah. Mom, very happy. Right? Then when I was older, maybe about teenager, 16 years old, then my mom asked, then suddenly I realized that girls are quite pretty too. Then now when he asked this question, then but still okay, So I managed to siam. Then later when I got a girlfriend, my mother still asked the same question. Then this time I say, jialat liao. My mother say, then my mother tell me story, saying, son, mother, you only have one. Wife, you can have more than one. So later when I became a full-time worker, a pastor, then my mom asked me again. Now this time I got one classic answer. I said, Mom, if something like this happens, first I will still put my wife up onto the boat. My mother, oh. Then I said, don't worry. Next, I will put you up onto the boat also. Because the Bible said, honor your father and mother, right? So I honor you. I love my wife, priority, put her up. Then I have to honor, so I put you. Then after my mom was happy for a while. Then suddenly he thought, hey, you can save too. How about you? Then I said, trust Jesus, Lord. Theological, right? Biblical, right? Trust Jesus, Lord. Obviously, I never dare bring my mother and my wife out into the sea. Never. Now that's priority, right? Now secondly, the second command is what? Besides living, the Bible says there must be the cleaving. There must be cleaving. You see, in a marriage, if there is no cleaving, then there is no true marriage. Right? The cleaving is very important. First we live, then we cleave. You want to have a good marriage, you want to have a successful marriage. These are the basic principles. Right? Cleave. Now, cleaving allows anything to damage your relationship between you and your wife. That you do not allow foreign interference. And so when something irritates you, when a habit irritates you, so what do? In a marriage, we always, you see, marriage is for real. Right? Every now and then, husband and wife will have a little bit of, they call it 口角, they will have a little so-called quarrel. Hopefully they don't fight. And when something irritates you, what do? At those moments, we choose mercy. Right? We choose to be merciful. And when sometimes you look at your husband, you look at your wife, they sometimes they do certain things, they really frustrate you. I can actually tell you, my wife is not here, so I can tell you. Today, she will still tell me something that it seems that I always forgotten. Why you do this? Why you do it? To me, what big deal? To her, very big deal. Very big deal. Okay? So what do? I think at that time, then be graceful, be gracious, right? If you 斤斤计较 in Chinese, 斤斤计较. If you want to go and calculate and look tit for tat, butter for bread, I tell you, your marriage is going to be very troublesome. And sometimes spouse can hurt us, right? Spouse can hurt us. And at those times, we choose to forgive. There's one old grandmother. One day, when she was ripe old age, I think 80 years old celebration, then she told the birthday party. She said, when I got married, I told myself, and I told my husband, I write down 10 faults of my husband that I have decided to forgive him right at the onset. He said, I wrote down 10 faults of his, and I decided to forgive him. So stop there. Then the party was over. One curious soul came and asked this old grandmother, Granny, what were the 10? What were the 10? Then the granny cheekily said, actually, I don't have the 10. And sometimes when the husband make a mistake, he say, lucky for you, it's inside my list of 10. So finally, when this young lady asked her, she said, no, actually I don't have 10. Anything he make, the fault he make is included in the 10. You get it? Because she already decided to forgive. Because if we say, like what Peter asked Jesus, is it 7 times? Is it 70 times 7 times? You see, we're in trouble if we do that. So choose to forgive. Be gracious and be merciful. Now, cleaving requires total commitment to honor our marriage covenant. Remember, marriage is a covenant. Marriage is not a contract. Someone asked, is marriage a 50-50 contract? Or 60-40 contract? No, marriage is not a contract. Marriage is a covenant between these two persons and with God. It's a serious thing. It's a very serious thing. It's a covenant. So that's why a couple should not lightly enter into a marriage. So you want to really have a thriving and a good, successful marriage, then you must remember that. Commit to our covenant. And we are to join with one another and no one else. There should not be a third-party interference. Right? And it demands faithfulness and loyalty. That is obvious, right? Now, thirdly, the third commands that God gave. That first you live, then we cleaved. And after you cleave, he say, the third commandment is you weave, W-E-A-V-E. He said the two shall join together. Join. See, this joining together is very important. If there is no true joining together, there is no true marriage. Today, there are such marriages, contract marriages, right? When people want to have a visa, they want to stay in Singapore or whatever country on a long-term basis, they go and get married on paper marriage. But there's no true marriage. It's only a paper marriage. Why? Because there's no joining together. When there is no joining together, then it is not a true marriage. So the Bible gives the definition very clearly. The weaving together. And I think weaving is a wonderful illustration. See, the husband and the wife, you and your spouse, me and my wife, we are to weave our life together. And a good illustration is actually the satay man. When they sell their satay, and they also sell this ketupat, right? The ketupat, they use 2 pandan leaf, they weave a basket, right? They put the rice in, then they cook the rice, and then it became the ketupat. Now this weaving together into a basket, the 2 life weave together, it make a very beautiful illustration. And we need to weave our life. In fact, marriage is not just because for economic purposes. For companionship is true, it's one of the reasons, right? But more than that, if marriage is to be exciting, marriage is to be enjoyable, then we have to learn to weave our life together. And how to weave our life? I think important thing is there are times we need to remember each other's interests, or sometimes we have common interests. You see, sometimes life is very, I don't know what interesting one. You notice something? The most exciting period of your knowing of your spouse, when? Courting, right? Courtship, right? Courtship is the most exciting, right? Why? Why exciting? Before she say yes. Before he say yes. So there is this, this excitement. See each other, hold each other hand for one night, still not enough. Go back home, still have to telephone another 4 hours. Right? And then you remember all the nice food she likes, the nice little things she wants. You know, the flower, which color and what type of flowers. After you get married, you don't care. Every time you send, it's like a wreath like that. sound very funny. But you know something? Actually, marriage, you need to maintain the excitement. I think is to make sure that there is, you reinvent yourself, into a courting situation. Like you start to think about, wow, that's how I chase after her. How I when I was interested in her, what are the things I did to please her, then you continue to do this thing. Don't mind to tell you this, just about last week, I think. Last week holiday, so my wife and myself, I think Sunday or Saturday, I think after service, last Saturday, we went to Esplanade. We went to Esplanade, we were going to see the outside, they got show, all free. Best, the free part. Okay, all the show, there's so many shows. They got people performing, got magic show, Magic 101, all kind of thing. And then we're at the dinner, and then we hold hands, and then we go and enjoy, tell the children, don't call us, not free. You understand? Then you weave your marriage, you understand not? And then you look at this old hack, and then you look at this old hack. No, common interest. And then communication. Spend time together. See, spending time together is very important. And I think in Singapore, this is one great challenge. How to spend time together meaningfully. Right? See, a wedding takes half an hour to perform. A marriage takes a lifetime to perfect. For me, half an hour, 25 minutes, complete A to Z. But for the couple, it's a lifetime. It's not over. The wedding is only the starting block, the starting point. We still got a whole life to weave our life together. So these are the three principles that God gave. Living, cleaving, and join together, weaving. Now we come to point number 4. The marriage vow is the bedrock of marriage. I am very tempted to ask, how many of us remember your marriage vow? How many? I can roughly guess. I think less than 50% remember. The other 50% vaguely remember. Some totally forgotten already. They only remember one part. For battle, B-A-T-T-L-E. For worse. And till death, D-E-B-T. The last part. Is that? But the vow is so important. In fact, I tell you this. When I was younger, I never realized that the wedding vow is so important. But I want to tell you now that the wedding vow is so important. If only we know how to keep the wedding vow, we remember the vow, we spend time to keep the vow, honor the vow that you give to one another, I can almost guarantee you that your marriage will be successful. Guaranteed. Why? You see, the marriage vow is like that. I don't know whether you have taken. And some couple, for those who are planning to get married, actually I discourage couple for writing their own vow, I actually discourage couple from writing their own vows. Sometimes they like to write fanciful vows. And because they have good English and they maybe, master in literature, so can write very flowery, But the problem is this, after they give the vow at the altar, when they march out of the sanctuary, they've forgotten what they said already. But they are supposed to keep the vow. But this vow is not. This vow is a traditional comprehensive insurance. Right? Not third party, It's comprehensive. All area cover one. You look at the vow. I take you so and so to be my wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love, to cherish, for the ladies, to obey, till death do us part, according to God's holy ordinance. And thereto I give you my solemn pledge. See, this is a vow that many people take. Now, let's examine the vow. The intention. The intention is what? To have and to hold. Right? Marriage is to take, to have and to hold. Not to have and then put inside the shelf like those what antique. Some people buy teapot, right? They collect teapot. They buy a beautiful teapot, and after they bought it, they put inside the glass shelf, and then 2 years later they take out, dust it, and that is not it's not for just display. A marriage is what? To have and to hold. And that is the intention. It's dynamic. Secondly, the duration. The duration of the vow is from this day forward, then ellipsis, ... till death do us part. So marriage has a time limit. When death strikes, when one of the spouses, right, move on, then this marriage covenant ends. That marriage ends. That's why you can have one husband or one wife at a time. It's not illegal, it is biblical. So because the covenant lasts as long as the person is around. When the person is no longer around, the person moves on, died, and then be with the Lord, then this marriage ends. Then the person is set free to, remarry or whatsoever. So the duration is for life. And divorce is never God's idea. Divorce is never God's idea. God never planned to have divorce. But unfortunately, there are people who ask Moses about, divorce, and Moses seems to be the one agreeing to allow divorce. Now today we know why divorce. In the Garden of Eden, if Adam and Eve did not fall, then their marriage will be perfect. And there will be no divorce. Divorce comes about because of the fallen nature of man. You see, there are times, okay, a church may have certain position. You may have certain position about divorce, okay? I respect that position. And there are people who hold a very strong position. I also respect them. But divorce is like that. If you say, no divorce, wait till you are the wife, and then your husband comes home every night, drunk, take a chopper, and chase you around, and chase you and your children around, and then whether you can say, no divorce. You may end up become meatball. Right or wrong? You be the pastor, and then you see how. But having said that, does not mean that we justify divorce. In fact, you ask me, my position is this. We do not, or maybe it's better to say I don't condone divorce, but I will not condemn the divorcee. I will not condemn them, but I will not condone them. If you can't ask me, Pastor, can I divorce? If you intend to ask me this question, don't need to come. Because my answer will be no. But should the person still divorce, I won't condemn that person. I still won't condemn that person, right? But my position will be, I will not condone, but I will not condemn. Right? Because sometimes they say, that one is a guilty party. That's why, we can divorce. Because the person has a scandal, the person has a third party. It is 100% wrong, I'm 100% right. I heard about that. Someone is 100% right and someone is 100% wrong. In a marriage, there is no such thing as 100% right and 100% wrong. Why the spouse wanted to, I've been attracted by another beautiful thing. Why? If at home you have a castle, why are you going to look for a shack? Right? If you have a castle at home, why you look for a shack? So there must be starting point. And the starting point can be very insidious. It can be your cooking is too saltish. You know that? It can be the way you squeeze your toothpaste. It can be the way you fold your newspaper and kick your shoe and your socks. It can be that because it mounted up, it add on, then the last camel straw broke the camel's back. Then who is right and who is wrong? So actually in a marriage, when something happens, you want to divide the responsibility, the accountability. Let me tell you something. We can't. There's no such thing as a 100% innocent party and a 100% guilty party. Very likely because if they have engineering, they have been building, they have been spending time to build their marriage, then such thing probably would not have happened. Full stop. Right? So we cannot apportion blame. And anyway, an incomplete marriage is better than a broken marriage. And divorce obviously affects family and children. Right? Number 3, C, the understanding. You see, in this vow, what is the understanding? The emotional condition, the financial condition, the health condition, all put inside this vow. For better, for worse. You feel good, you don't feel good. Sometimes we married, can you feel all the time good? You know, there's one pastor, I don't want to tell you the name. A very famous pastor, I tell you. Let me show you, but he's gone home to be with the Lord. Very famous pastor. One night he shared this over his pulpit, okay? He turned around, he was sleeping, obviously the woman is his wife. He turned around, he looked at this woman and said, wow, what is this devil? The wife, you know, this ugly thing. He's a very senior pastor. But what he's trying to say is that, you see, in life, this is life. We cannot say all the time, you know, we love this person, that all the time this person is like Teflon like that, you know, no dirt stuck, no such thing. Maybe there are some moment of insanity, we're off color, you know. They know, how come I end up like that? Well, for better, for worse. Even when you feel it that way, it is still for better, for worse. That is the vow. That's the condition, regardless of our emotional feeling. For richer, for poorer, regardless of the financial standing. Now, when we marry a person, obviously we do have selection process, right? Today, sorry, ladies, I have to say using the lady. It could be the man too. The lady, when you want to marry them, the lady will ask, got car or not? Got condo or not? Got cash or not? Got club membership or not? 5C, right? So maybe at that time have. Then after marriage, the financial situation, status went downstream, went southward. Then what happened? Now the person is poor. So because of poverty, this is the reason to divorce? This is the reason to break up the marriage? No! The Bible says here, the vow is for richer, for poorer. Whether you are poor, then now you become rich, or you are rich, now you become poor, regardless of the financial situation, you stay put. We stay put. In sickness and in health. See, obviously when we choose a spouse, we choose someone healthy, right? You will not be like someone about to die, we choose. There are also very fantastic stories about such relationship, okay? But those are an exception, not the norm. Right, no? So for better, for worse. So we do not say, oh, now this person is so sick, I cannot afford to take care of him or her, I will divorce her. No, our marriage ends. Sorry. The vow says, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health. This is the understanding. Then the duty. The vow also delineate the duties. The duties are what? To love, to cherish, to love and to cherish. Now, to love, the husband to love the wife, and the wife love the husband too. You see, to love is important. If we do not marry a wife and treat her like a cooking pot, a washing machine, an ironing board, you know, a rice cooker. No, we did not marry a rice cooker and an ironing board. We married a wife. Like, she is to be loved. So the husband is to love. Then to cherish. To cherish means you handle with care. You don't anyhow treat it roughly. You handle with care, to cherish. Treasure it. Handle it gently. That's the whole idea. See, sometimes in our fallen state, sometimes we can be very rough. Sometimes when we are upset, we are angry, perhaps, we may speak harsh words. Harsh words may spill out from our mouth. But let me tell you this. I'm talking about myself, okay? So what does it mean then? It means that when you remember that, hey, this is something not right, then you have to learn to retrace our step. And learn to be gentle. Go and apologize. Dear, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be like that. Just now I was very hot. Then after that you got beef stew. Okay? Otherwise you will be stew. Or be skew. Now for the wife, to obey. To obey. This is the wife vow. The wife got one extra part called to obey. Once upon a time there was a very famous lady, want to tell you the name. When she got married, she declared to the whole world, she's going to remove this word to obey from her vow. I don't want to tell you, Anglican Church. Okay? And what happened? Well, the marriage is a public marriage. The marriage didn't end up well. The marriage ended up in a divorce. Because this person already at the wedding decided to choose to delete this word to obey from the vow. She already decided, I am not going to obey. But you say, hey, Pastor, obey is lousy deal, leh. Right? Love, good deal, huh? For many ladies, when you mention the word obey, they straight away feel emotional already, right? Oh, your man sing song, leh. Love only. We obey. Obey seems subservient. Obey means being trampled upon. Obey means disadvantage, right? No, you're wrong. Obey means protection. What did Paul talk about Christ's death on the cross? For Christ loved us to the point what? He is willing to go up to the cross to die for us. Christ loved enough to die on the cross for us. But you don't have to obey. We don't have to obey enough to go up to the cross, no, by the way. So when you obey, you don't have to go up to the cross. But when you say you love, you have to die for your wife. Husband, listen very carefully. This is the bad news for you. No, this is the good news. Right? In fact, this is what the Bible expects, that you love your wife to the point that you are willing to die. That's what it means to love. So do not think that love is the mushy thing, the sweet nothing, the dearest dear. Then obedience is subservient, following hardship and no choice, and bo pian. No, it's not like that. In fact, obedience means protection. I say this is illustration. If one day your son, and the neighbor's son have a quarrel, and then your son bigger size and bash up the neighbor's son, and then the neighbor's son went and complain to the parent, then the father is a big size man, and the father came to your house and then knocked on the door. And then Christina, charge out first, open the gate, and then the man say, your son, beat up my son. Then he say, what, your son beat up my son? What? They forget that she's small size, the neighbor big size. So the neighbor decided to give her a slap. Ain't guy one. If she's smart, I share with you how to handle. She see this burly man come, angry. Hey, where's your son? Then she will say this, Richard, our neighbor looking for you. Push Richard to the front and let him bash him up. That's the privilege of obedience. So understand now, you know the trick? So now everyone want to obey, I tell you. Well, submit, nothing wrong, I tell you. Submit is a privilege, in fact, And if you remove the word obey from your vow, be very careful, right? So now, when we also don't threaten, don't threaten, say, unless you love me, I won't obey. Unless you obey, I won't love you. Hey, once upon a time, there was somebody who told me this. I got so scared, I dare not ask the person to solemnize a wedding, I went to Bible college. I got my Bible college lecturer to solemnize my wedding. I dare not approach my pastor to solemnize a wedding. Because he's in this regard, I saw already, I got scared. Because his demand is that unless my wife obey, I'm not going to love. This is what thinking, So we don't threaten that you love me first, then I obey. Or you obey first, then I love you. No, there's no, you love me first, you obey first. You just do it, take your initiative, obey and love, and full stop. Don't ever threaten. The witness is God. According to God's holy ordinance, it's God's statute. God is the witness. So the vow we gave is the witness. So there is a three-party involved. You, me and my spouse, or you and your wife, and then God. So imagine how serious is the vow. And the vow is so important. In fact, this is the bedrock of all marriages. If this foundation is right, and then we remember to honor the vow, I can almost guarantee you that our marriage will be an okay one. Will be an okay one. Now, lastly, let me end very quickly. Does marriage end when love dies? There are a couple who come and tell me, Pastor, I don't love this person anymore. I want a divorce. Right? In short, the person is saying, I don't love anymore, therefore I want a divorce. I want out. You see, marriage is not solely dependent on love alone. Just now I started off by saying that marriage is a what? A covenant. Remember? A covenant. A covenant we make with one another, and God is the witness. So marriage does not build on love alone. Now, what would have happened if marriage is based on love alone? There will be another 30%, 40% more divorces, right? If marriage is just based on love. See, there will be a time when you don't feel loved. You don't feel you can love. But there are maybe some moments, it's like the stock market like that. This is the downtime, the bear market, the bull will come. Right? Good times will come. So we wait out. We wait out for the good time to come. And you need purpose to build. You need to invest. You need to purposefully build. And we don't blame. See, marriage is sustained. I say it one more time. Sustained by covenant, not by love. Think about the old marriages. In the time you look at the Bible, when Isaac saw the prospective wife, was there love? Love at first sight at best. Because they never even seen this woman before. It was brought back by the servant, right? A house servant. And then he saw. And then the first time they see each other is at the wedding night. That's why in the good old days, wedding night is a very exciting and very terrifying night. Because when you take out the veil, you don't know it's 3 eyes or 2 eyes or 1 eye. Right? You don't know. Because that's the first time. And that's the final decision. But then there are many stable marriages. Do you know that in time past, arranged marriages are more stable than today when we have free so-called free love. Now we court and then we... So sometimes we think that free courting is better than the traditional. Not exactly. Not exactly. Because in the good old days, you see, we all young men. We all look at the lady, we look from waist upward. When your mother want to choose a daughter-in-law, she look from waist downward. She look whether can give birth or not. We look pretty or not. So it's not the same criteria, okay? But love definitely sweetened the marriage. Love definitely sweetened the marriage because when over time, we cultivate love, we create, the environment. Then the marriage will be a blissful marriage, right? So remember to cultivate marriage. See, the word definition of love is this. Webster Dictionary defines love as unselfish loyalty and benevolent concern for the good of another. That's the word's definition. Now, what is God's definition? God's definition is found in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 to 8, the first part of verse 8. It says this, and I think many of us, some of us may even have memorized it. It says, love is patient. That is God's kind of definition of love. Patient, kind, is not jealous. Love does not brag. It is not arrogant. It does not act disgracefully. It does not seek its own benefit. It is not provoked, does not keep an account of a wrong suffered. It does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth. It keeps every confident. It believes all things, hopes all things, endure all things. Love never fails. Now that is God's definition of love. Now imagine if we use this definition, right? Just to mention a few. It's not arrogant, does not brag, is kind, patient, does not act disgracefully, does not seek just one's party benefit, not provoke, and don't keep an account of wrong suffered. See, don't keep on remembering your spouse's mistakes. Sometimes when they quarrel, 3 decades ago, mistake all surface. No? You've forgotten 30 years ago you did this, Right? See, sometimes all this should be buried. So this is God's definition of love. And love our spouse. And love will bring joy to our marriage. Now, so if we want a thriving marriage, right, I think if we apply this principle, make sure you keep the vows. Remember the vow. Actually, I'm very tempted to do this morning and share. Maybe for some of us, not some of us, for some of you, you became a Christian after you got married. You never got a chance to walk into the church house and then exchange vow, right? Your vow may be exchanged in ROM, I don't know. And maybe next time we do one renewal of vow, yeah. Those who have never walked into the church before, you go and dress in the white gown, okay? And then the man wear the smartest jacket, come in here, and then we will do a vow renewal, renew your vow. I think it will be very meaningful and fantastic, right? I see a few head nodding. So we are on, huh? So act of love will make our marriage blissful. I hope that this afternoon when we hear all this, remember, although two imperfect person cannot make a perfect marriage, but when we involve God, involve Jesus into our marriage, then we can have a blissful, successful marriage. Remember to keep the marriage vow. The marriage vow is very, very important. And so may God bless us.